Hare Krishna. We'll begin the program in another 2 minutes.
all. Hare Krishna, Bhakti Radhika, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Welcome, Prabhuji. Dandavad.
Hare Krishna. We welcome all the devotees for ISKCON Pune Annamrit Foundation presents Arogyam. Knowledge is the ultimate vaccine. Before we begin, I would like to give a quick and a brief introduction about Annamrit Foundation Pune. Annamrit Foundation Pune, also known as ISKCON's Food Relief Foundation, is feeding 40,000 children their one-time midday meal at 110 government schools in Pune. But since 2 years, as the schools are shut and the world is facing a difficult problem of the pandemic, COVID-19, since past 2 years, we thought that, why are we only feeding children? Why not reach out to people who do not have enough facilities? So we saw to it that wherever there was a need, we were right here to feed. Since last year, March till today, we have altogether fed 50 lakh of people in Pune, in and around the Pune city. And we are not only limiting ourselves in the food sector, we are trying to cope up with education, we are trying to cope up with medicals, we are trying to cope up with different sectors, and we are seeing that, wherever there's opportunity to serve people, we are entering into that different spheres. A couple of days before, we just organized a session again called Arogyam, which was taken by the doctors of our hospital at Mira Road, where they spoke about, home precautions and care what can be taken during COVID-19's pandemic. And then we, thought about how knowledge can serve as the ultimate vaccine in these difficult times of COVID-19's pandemic. And that's exactly why we have our very dear His Grace Dwarkadhish Prabhu on board. Prabhuji, we welcome you, and we are very fortunate to have you with us here today evening. Before we start, I'll give a quick introduction about our host, His Grace Mukundanand Prabhu, and our speaker, His Grace Dwarkadhish Prabhu. His Grace Dwarkadhish Prabhu is a postgraduate in medicine from Mumbai University. He's the department head, one of the founder members and trustee of our very own Bhaktivedanta Hospital and Research Center at Mira Road, Mumbai. He is a senior disciple of very dearmost Gurudev Radhanath Swami Maharaj and a spiritual counselor since 3 decades now. Coming to our host, His Grace Mukundanand Prabhu. He's a PhD holder in chemical engineering, a professor and a dean at a very renowned institute in Pune, and also a counselor in Pune since a decade now. Before we begin, there are a few announcements. In our co-host list, we have His Grace Amrish Pran Prabhu, who will be taking up questions of the participants. So if you all have any kind of questions, you all can message him privately on the chat box. And in the end, we can pass on the questions ahead. And we request all the devotees to please on their video. It becomes easier for the speaker to connect with all of us. So we request all our devotees to humbly on our videos. Over to you, Mukundanand Prabhu. Haribol. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bhakti, very nice to hear this feeding 5 million plates. That's a huge number at Annamrit Foundation. Thank you for a very kind introduction. And this is a great initiative now from the Annamrit Foundation, Bhaktivedanta Hospital and ISKCON Pune. Very happy today to have His Grace Dwarkadish Prabhu, Dr. Dhaval Dalal, Head Medicine Department at Bhaktivedanta Hospital, and a very senior doctor and a very, very senior devotee in ISKCON. He is someone who is a Corona warrior from day one of the pandemic. Before we move on with the discussions, we are aware that these discussions are at the backdrop of many similar topics that are being already discussed. You will already have your WhatsApp messages filled with zinc tablet, Giloy-Vati, pranayam, and many more useful and not so useful messages. So make it more relevant. We thought of why not to have audience themselves getting involved in the questions. We thus facilitated the audience and we got a huge response. So the questions that we would be asking you are all your questions. We are here just to streamline the more common questions as priority and cover as many as we can. The topic of today's discussion is knowledge as the ultimate vaccine. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes Jnana Yoga as the Agni, which completely destroys ignorance. Similarly, today we will equip ourselves with Jnana. And when it comes from His Grace Dwarkadish Prabhu, it's far more than Jnana, it's Vijnana, realized knowledge. This knowledge is our greatest vaccine. By the time we wait for our turn to get doses of vaccine, consider this as the first dose. And in case we have already taken the 2 doses of vaccine, consider this session as the booster dose. We will discuss about the pandemic, its psychological and the lifestyle impact, preparing for the ongoing wave 2, upcoming wave 3, and many more questions. These are going to be direct questions on the corona and coronavirus. Also, there are a lot of questions related to the vaccines. And at the conclusion, we would be having an icing on the cake. This is the rapid fire questions to Prabhuji. So now let's begin. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, welcome. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Prabhuji, at the outset, how would you briefly describe coronavirus and the ongoing pandemic?
I was hearing a lecture before the SBT discussion with Parijat Prabhu from His Grace Pankaj Angri Prabhu, and I wanted to know what is a transcendentalist, a pure Vaishnava Mahatma like him saying about coronavirus. So, so I thought that was going to be an interesting view because we have a medical perspective that is an mRNA virus, it is a variant coming from the bats, and it is this particular size, and it has got the spike protein and this and that, right? So we have a biological understanding of the virus for sure because it's seen under electron microscope. What antibodies it produces, incubation period, etc., etc. But regarding the pandemic and the views from a pure-hearted Vaishnava, whom of course we have lost unfortunately, he said that actually this virus is a global reaction to the misbehavior of human beings. He said that you cannot expect life to be comfortable in this world because we're living in a house which is considered, which we think is our house, but it is actually a prison house. So prisoners cannot be expected to be good. So when you say, why do bad things happen to good people? You said there are hardly any good people here. But yes, people like you and me who are trying to be Vaishnavas, we are trying to be like the good prisoners. We're trying to reform ourselves and trying to somehow get the grace of the jailer and the Lord to be sort of released from this, not only just this pandemic, which is a temporary situation, however intense it may be, but it's a situation we want to get into where we can, sort of go out once and for all. So he was really stressing, to become more and more focused and surrendered to Krishna and find an ultimate solution to the pandemic and not just something, short gap. So that is the perspective I wanted to just present here. That is the ultimate vaccine. Krishna consciousness is the ultimate vaccine to all pandemics, to all diseases,
Yes.
entire world. So
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
as
That is,
Vaishnavas, we can talk like this because it is true. It is true that while we're talking about vaccines for a particular virus, what about the existential disease itself of the material world, which can only be cured by the beauty and of surrender to the feet of Sri Radha and Krishna. Haribol.
Jai, thank you, Prabhuji. This was like a small Bhagavatam class on vaccine and coronavirus. Really, very good perspective. When we talk of the pandemic, one thing comes to mind is that the new research. So new research is something like a hallmark of a pandemic. And the newer and newer discoveries are being made daily. And this makes some of the drugs which were considered as the life-saving drugs, and within 3 months, they move to the category of the banned drugs. Of course, as a Vaishnava, we understand that Shabda Praman is the ultimate and there is limitation to, but when the limitation to the experimental knowledge, but when it comes to the, when our near and dear ones, their life is at the stake of this experimentation. So it impacts even everyone, psychologically. So how we see this, that, the upcoming research in the light of pandemic.
We'll have to accommodate this within our stride because we are dealing with something which we have not dealt with before. So there are no textbook chapters written in the books on virology or microbiology on this virus, because nothing is in print right now. Everything is in a state of flux, right? However, I would like to definitely say that the ignorance which loomed large during the first wave, beginning from March 22nd, when the first lockdown was announced in Mumbai and other places. And now, looking at 15 months down the line, we do not want to say that we are ignorant to such a large extent. Most of the knowledge we would need to deal with this is there, right? As regards, the viral part of it. When it comes to therapeutic part of it, yes, therapeutic-wise, we are still in a phase where we are wanting to know a little more, but we always knew that. I think you are pointing towards Remdesivir right now, and
yes,
and
that is the medicine which people really fought
Yeah.
for, be in the line. They just
Yeah.
purchased it for 300 times, and that is being banned now. It is creating a huge psychological impact.
Yeah, you see, so that is there. That is going to happen. Hydroxychloroquine also, same thing. Ivermectin also to some extent. Now, there may not be always universal acceptance. Sometimes, some of it. The WHO has removed Remdesivir, but in India, the protocol is still not to that extent accepted by our ICMR, and therefore our doctors are using it, and they're finding it useful. We just not remember there will be ethnic variations between, Asians and between Americans and Europeans. So that ethnic differences to be considered when it comes to drug therapy. Hydroxychloroquine is still being used in our country by some people. Ivermectin was used first time in Bangladesh, and they made a huge impact in curtailing down the amount of virus by a very simple drug which was known to us for the last 30 years. Ivermectin is a very simple antiparasitic medicine, and therefore even in our armamentarium also we still use it. So there is change, and we need to accept that particular change. But at the same time, we are far more wiser than before, right? So the removal of does not necessarily make us, feel paralyzed or incapacitated, but we are in fact now even more confident because we need to know when you use something whether it's working or not working, right? And what's the point of just saying, okay, something is there, keep on taking it and giving a false hope to people? So we have to face the truth. Yes, it is working, continue not working, change the track and go for something else. So doctors and people may not know this because everything is not known to the lay people still. Many drugs are also now not only in the pipeline but also being used. So there is a lot of newer drugs which are being tried out. There are very active trials taking place in UK and America, some in India also. So we are adding to our knowledge practically every day, and the protocols are changing. But I would say, as a doctor, as a treating doctor for COVID, we are far more confident than before. So I want to assure our audience that please do not feel that drug is removed. So now, it's a situation where we are all left in ignorance. We know with a certain degree of certainty how to deal with the situation. We may not still know exactly how to deal with the most serious cases who are on ventilators regulators, that particular type of knowledge is still lacking. But on mild, moderate, and mortally severe cases, we still are very much wiser than we were 1 year back. So that's what I would say.
Yes, Prabhuji. In fact, sometimes when we talk about this experimental knowledge, the latest pandemic, previous one was the plague, which we faced in 19th century, and where they said that initially scientists thought that plague is because of the cats, and they killed the cats, and the plague just got exponentially multiplied. And then they realized it's not cats, it's rats, and they started killing rats. But when we live through that unfolding of pandemic, that's what currently is happening. It's one thing to discuss history, and it's another thing to live through the history when the history is unfolding. So we should not lose hope, neither we should lose the hope on the sincerity and the intent of the medical fraternity. Certain trial errors will be there. So trial comes with the another word, error, and error comes with the another trial and the reduced error. So we are with this, Prabhuji. Very good. Another very tough thing that everyone faces is one question. They say that, why me? I have taken all possible care. I was wearing 3 masks instead of 1. I never stepped outside of the house, and still somebody getting caught of corona. They feel that, why me? I have taken full, complete care, and on the top I am devotee also. So sometimes people may have this kind of a question, why me?
Hare Krishna is a vaccine against Maya, not against COVID.
Yeah, that's good. Yes.
But at the same time, what I would say is that question should not be, really wrecking us too badly, because I believe that in the process of the virus now becoming practically universally spread in about 190 countries, there is practically no place, a city or village now, where this virus is not reached. So we wanted to have Mahaprabhu's movement reach Sarva Nagara Gram. The virus has reached before that.
Yeah.
Not every nagar and any gram, right? But what I would say is that if you're protecting yourself in your own home and you get a vaccine and you get an infection, be sure that you have done everything else, and now you're positive. You are not want to be one of those bad cases, first of all, because you are on a protected lot. You have been probably exposed to a very low degree of viral infection. It may have come through the groceries, through the things which your wife goes out and brings, because she has to go out and get some bread or some dhania and some ginger, whatever else she gets, right? So it will become, you're not washing everything under the sun. So we get an infection. So getting an infection should not be seen as a negativity. It's something which I would say is essential, because you also need to prepare the body to develop your own adaptive immunity in this regard. Right? So the virus would act as a small vaccines-like stimulant, right? Ultimately, the virus is a dead virus which you're injecting in the body. But when the virus comes alive, you are activating the immune system, connecting the small activator. That is good, because it helps ultimately in what you call as herd immunity as well. So even if you are protected, if you get an infection, perfectly all right. Positivity, what is important, Mukundan Prabhu, is to understand that we want to disconnect infection with morbidity and mortality. I think we want to really stress that very strongly here, right? That getting an infection, and I have seen hundreds and hundreds of patients by now who are positive, right? And over the last 15 months. So I have come to very, very clearly understand that being positive and thinking of death or thinking of, heart attacks and lung damage, permanent lung damage and incapacitated lifestyle, please do not think like that. Positivity, once it takes place, there is so much you can do before and after. So let's not, disconnect. Like, you make connections in our mind. If this happens, this will happen. This will happen, right? So we make connections in our mind. So people maybe who are abnormally scared, almost a level of paranoia, may connect positivity with morbidity and mortality. That is definitely something which we should, as of today, give up completely, because not relevant, because almost everyone we're treating is recovering very well with good medicines, good diet, vitamins, some of the good drugs which we have right now, and only a very small percentage people are becoming affected in a critical manner. And we will define a little later who are those high risk cases, and those people are in a special category, but otherwise by and large recovery rate is very, very high, even now in the second wave. So let us be more reassured about this particular fact.
Prabhuji, this brings us to the point where, generally what we call it as an association principle, that somebody has been declared corona positive, tested corona positive, immediately people have the image that, the lungs are being damaged, the relatives are running for oxygen cylinder, or, there is a black fungus or white fungus. So you are saying that we should not extrapolate the situation and think of the negative extreme, which is, is not always in all the cases. So how we define the stages of, the patients that are being infected by coronavirus, that mild infection, severe infection, and very severe fatal infection, how we...
Correct. So let's talk about that. That's very important. So even before we say mild, I would say there will be many who are even in the category before that, and they'll be called as asymptomatic, right? For example, many of us, including myself, I have almost gone through an asymptomatic situation. Even though we have been in the front line, dealing with so many patients day in and day out, we hardly had anything happening to us. So there are many people who would probably go through a symptomatic situation where they may just be a carrier for a while, and then they become non-infective on their own, because their immune system is capable of not allowing the virus to invade the body. It is getting infected, but there is no invasion taking place in the deeper tissues or in deeper side of the lungs, right? So that's the very lowest part of the spectrum of asymptomatic people. Then we have something which is mild, right? Mild symptom would be suggested like fever, which of course may or may not be there. There could be people who are without fever as well. But you do not need, all the symptoms are already known. I don't want to get into that. But it's a time when you do not have any such symptom whereby there is a drop in the oxygen levels, right? So I want to stress this further. Devotees will have to keep a pulse oximeter in their house. I think it's become a basic part of paraphernalia of every household now, and everyone even knows how to use it. So if you're getting into a cough, remember from the seventh day onwards, the virus may start affecting your lungs. So if the first you get the fever, not that now your lungs are getting damaged, you go and take a CT scan. So do not do that, please, right? Don't let the doctor take a chest scan and see whether my lungs are getting damaged. On the first day, the second day, the fourth day, the fifth day, very, very likely, even if you have fever, even if you're 102 fever, your lungs may not show practically anything, right? Because the virus is still in your upper respiratory infection. It's a nose, maybe it's a throat, maybe it's a trachea, and maybe it's your bronchus, but there is no parenchymal involvement in the alveolus of the lung. You may not see hardly anything, right? So when the lung starts getting involved from the seventh day onwards, many a times, then if you walk with the pulsometer, if your baseline oximeter reading is only say 97, 98, which is most of us who are healthy will have that, if there's a slight drop in the oxygen levels after walking for say 2 to 3 minutes, and then maximum about 6 minutes, then you should know that your lung involvement is a little more significant, right? And this calls for attention. Now the time to stop your preventive measures of CADA and whatever else you're doing, and move on to a proper professional practitioner who will now himself advise a CT scan, a blood count, and maybe even an admission, and put you on proper antiviral medication, will put you on steroids, will put you on other supportive treatment, and then you go for a full-fledged advice as per a professional person who's giving it to you. So this is from mild, we have moved on to now moderate, right? Now, even if, and the third category is what you call as moderately severe, the third category, or maybe the fourth category. So moderately severe means that even at rest, I'm not doing anything. I'm just, holding my bead bag or just, praying. But even if I'm just doing nothing, if I put the oximeter, put it in the middle finger, if possible, that's the best finger, put it here. And if you're seeing a drop of less than 92, even when you're sitting, right, then you are in the category of moderately severe. Because at room air, the oxygen is not able to enter via your nose and enter into the lungs adequately to be absorbed into your bloodstream, right? So the saturation, what this machine shows is the oxygen saturation. How much is of the blood is saturated with oxygen. It is not really oxygen content, but saturation, right? So now if I'm only less than 92, then I am moderately severe. And of course, the very, very severe cases are people who would need, high flow oxygen. They would need a BiPAP machine or a ventilator machine. So that's a category of people who are admitted with in that zone. So they are considered as very severe. So for people who need to know when to really take medical advice, as I said, please perform your 6-minute walk test. And if your oxygen is dropping significantly, less than 5, then without any anxiety, please just walk into a cabin of a good doctor who knows how to treat COVID, and leave the rest to him, and he will do what is necessary.
Yeah, so this opens up very good numbers. So, I mean, one thing is it's not necessary that the patient will have fever. Another thing is it's not necessary that even if somebody is doing the CT scan test, it will give any significant result. So 7th day is something which is very critical. And also one has to look for the oxygen saturation levels, especially after 3-minute walk test or 6-minute walk test kind of a thing.
Correct.
And that's how we can decide. Yes, Prabhuji. Now we have another question: how one can preserve immunity of the body? So which food you recommend, which is maybe higher content of calcium, vitamin D, zinc, or what to do exactly?
Right. Yeah. So I think let us understand immune system. Immune system, first of all, is not just food based. So it would be wrong for us to stay with this sort of idea that immunity means vitamin C, immunity means giloy, immunity means ashwagandha or tulsi, right? So to connect immunity to just a particular substance or a food or a herb would be erroneous, definitely, right? It is the end product of a healthy lifestyle, right? And a healthy lifestyle would mean that you are, first of all, sleeping well at the proper timing as per the biological clock, at decent hours in the night with 7 to 8 hours of good sleep. It means that you are well hydrated, that you are flushing off the toxins which are produced in the body as a part of daily metabolic processes. Number 2. Number 3, that you are a person who is aware that everybody's body, whether a young child or an old man, as per his Yatha Shakti, needs some amount of exercise to keep his body activated. And exercise itself leads to production of numerous antibodies within our human structure, within our biology. So antibody production is exercise based a lot. So I won't go to details of what exercise and all that, but it's a third principle. Fourth principle is what time you eat, whether it is as per schedule, your breakfast time, your lunch time, your dinner time. So are you following a pattern, or lunch is at 1 o'clock sometimes, at 5 p.m. sometimes, right? Your dinner is at 9 p.m. and sometimes 11 p.m. in the night, sometimes when your Agni is completely gone, right? So what has been your lifestyle? And fifth, last but not the least, is how much stress capacity have you been holding in your consciousness, in your psyche, right? So if you've been a very stressed out person, please remember you're going to have immunity which is low. And people have been there who have been under severe stress because of jobs or finance, and they become succumb to infection. So if you are a person who has been reasonably living an emotionally stable lifestyle, in spite of the pressures of daily life, which happen to anyone's life, you are able to sustain that well with a sense of positivity and optimism. If these 5 factors are in place, then I would say, broadly speaking, you are leading a reasonably healthy lifestyle. Now, after that is done, then the specific questions about what to eat will come. But if only the food part is considered, without these things, then your immunity will not really develop to the extent you are expecting, right? And therefore, there are people who have been taking a lot of vitamin C and a lot of kadas and a lot of giloys and still are infected and say, what happened to all those kadas within my body? I took so many kadas and I got an infection. What nonsense, all these herbs are not working now. So no, herbs are working. They are helping you, but they have to be in the background of a healthy lifestyle. So I want to stress that first to our wonderful audience here, that Corona time should be a time where we take full responsibility for our health, not just the means of being anti-Corona type of situation, but for the future, because for devotees, their health will be the greatest asset in their life to fulfill their material and spiritual desires. Without a healthy body, how can you fulfill your desires? Desire dependence on the apparatus. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the first canto that our motto is to be healthy and serve Krishna. He says in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's very interesting. He said that our purpose of maintaining health is not just to enjoy health like, in a non-devotional way, but to really have good health so that we can really fulfill the mission of our life and with so much more commitment, right? So devotees, please understand that let us now reframe and redesign our lifestyle to be more healthy in its framework. And then the specific questions about, okay, can we eat, what is vitamin D? Well, we know that it is not something which we take as a supplement, but if you want more, then you get from the sun. Spend about 20 minutes sunlight before 9 a.m. in the morning, and you get a reasonable quota of say 2,000 units, 3,000 units of sunlight per day of vitamin D being manufactured under your skin. Talking about more about foods, category wise, rather than going to specifics, the principle I would like to stress here, there are different types of foods. One is acidic food, alkaline food. To prefer more alkaline foods, you can do research on that yourself and see. There are pro-inflammatory foods and anti-inflammatory foods. So most of the foods which we eat, even though we are vegetarians, most of us still eat a lot of outside food prepared by factories and bakeries and things like that. So pre-prepared food, which is obviously stale, in clear-cut terms, it is stale. Anything less than about 3 hours prepared is considered stale food from any standards. Prabhupada even says that, and Ayurvedically true. So when you buy a packet of biscuit or a chevada or whatever else, you go to the mall, and most of us ourselves, we have snacks of that, we give to our children. But that should be a habit which probably need to be curtailed to whatever extent is possible, because there is so much of artificial chemical there, which are all immunosuppressive, right? Immunosuppressive, correct? So we need to, eliminate those foods from our life. Take foods which are more natural based. Like if you tell me, can I take dry fruits? I would say yes, take dry fruit, very nice. Take walnut, take badam, take pista. How to take it is a detail. You won't get into that, right? But take one of some of these. Take seeds. Seeds are good. Sunflower seeds, hemp seeds, and so many other seeds are available now. Flax seeds. People are beginning to understand that seeds are of great value. Then you take sprouts, right? You make sprouts of moong, matki, chana, half steam it, thoda kacha paka type of this thing, where you still keep the enzymatic action, present in the food, and eat about of that. Take more salads, take more broccoli, take more, things like that. Take a lot of salads, take a lot of water, right? So these are all very, very healthy foods. Take berries, all the colored berries which you can think of. There are so many berries available: cranberries, gooseberries. These are all different colors. So all these foods, the more they are closer to the natural state as the Lord has given us when we consume in good amounts, they all are immunogenic. I would not say, in fact, Krishna would not have produced any substance on a tree if it was not good for his children. If his children in this world need to eat something, he has put it on a tree, put it in the farm, right? And we can be sure that when we eat a balance of all that, not just one type of food in excess amount because it is immunogenic, everything which is there in nature is of use, right? When we understand the principle involved, actually a balanced diet, santulit ahar, there is sufficient amount of protein, sufficient amount of carbohydrate, etc. So when we eat that type of food, definitely we are a healthy thing, rather than just singling out one as being the superhero and everything else being, just TK types, right? So everything is useful in nature, so many things. But again, as I said, eat balanced. When you eat, what time you eat, how much you eat is all going to be important, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
When you ask something more specific, yes, there are, since food is these days lowered down in its quality of nutritional content, we are in a situation in Kali Yuga where some supplementation will be required. So coming to that part now, that we would need some supplements also. Yes, that's agreed. And during these times, it may be useful to consider multivitamins which are there. Some brands I can speak without appear to be promotional. So there is Supradine is there, Supradine by Piramal Healthcare, very cheap, nice multivitamin containing micronutrients, vitamins, and antioxidants. I think Syncovid has already become very famous by Apex Pharma. People are taking Syncovid, they know it. So that there is one thing which is people are not aware about is the role of magnesium. It is not being highlighted to the extent it should. Magnesium is considered as a very powerful anti-inflammatory substance. The magnesium is basically, our blood is red in color because of heme. Heme comes from iron, right? And the plant blood is called as chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is green in color. The green color, which is the blood of the plants, is because of the presence of a beautiful thing called as magnesium, right? So magnesium is a very powerful immunogenic substance, and it is called as a calming vitamin, calming mineral. So the inflammation, when you say calming, means it quenches down inflammatory response. So when you eat more dark greens, right, your shepu, your palak, your methi, all the dark leaves in this world which are there, right? When you make a soup out of that or sabji out of that, those things are high magnesium and they are very, very useful, right? So this, I'm giving you a broad outline of how to make food choices within our diet, right? So
yes, Prabhuji, this is a very
yeah.
loaded answer. I mean, so what we want to say here, what Prabhuji is saying is that don't just outsource the immunity to your food. It is not just food. Immunity has, Prabhuji has given us Pancha Sutri. So 5 things are, one is good sleep, well hydration, daily exercise, eating timely with a predefined pattern, and de-stressing yourself with positivity and optimism. So these 5 things are very important, not that we simply take, the 1 glass of some vitamin D and 1 bowl of zinc and 1 bowl of calcium and 1 roti of, this is not going to work. So immunity is more holistic than it goes just beyond being food. And we have to remember these 5 things. And if somebody is specifically asking for food, Prabhuji has given very important inputs here that I'm just repeating. He's saying that at least 20 minutes we should have the sun exposure before 9 o'clock in the morning. So what he's saying, maybe one should chant 3 rounds before 9 o'clock in the sunlight, maybe walking, that would be, that would suffice the whole thing.
Sure.
And we should avoid the pre-cooked food, that is chivda, biscuits, snacks, any artificial chemicals, because they are immunosuppressive. Instead, we should take the dry fruits, the food that is, which is very close to nature, dark green leafy vegetables. Consider magnesium, consider sometimes even the multivitamin. So this is a very holistic answer, Prabhuji. It's like Chappan Bhog answer you have given to our immunity problem. The related question somebody is asking here is, if somebody is healthy, does he have to check the oxygen level daily? If somebody is healthy and he has no problem.
No. This is funny. Some people are like so paranoid. I'm telling you, this corona has exposed us as being so fragile in our psychic stability that they keep on checking practically every 5 minutes, literally 5 to 10 minutes, their oxygen levels. It's so amazing. It's like, oh yeah, come again. They're like that. So this is absolutely uncalled for, right? If you are a healthy gentleman, gentle lady, right? You don't have to touch the oxygen. Maybe just once in a way, just do it because the whole family is saying, "Chalo bhai dekhte hain. Come on, everybody come here and just see what is there," right? So that's one thing, but you don't have to do it every day. Not at all required. As long as you know your baseline, my baseline, suppose you are a lung disease person, you are a asthmatic person, you have a chronic lung disease in the past, you have got something which is there. You may also want to know that my baseline is 95. I have been 95, right? Even when I'm reasonably healthy. Somebody has got a sleep apnea, somebody is snoring too much in the night, may have a little bit of baseline low, or somebody is a heart patient who has been on heart medication because he has a weak pump, he may be a little low. So he just needs to know that my baseline. So know your baseline first. Somebody's baseline may be 99, somebody's baseline may be 95, right? So once you know your baseline, that's good enough, right? But if you're a guy who has got a lower on the baseline, then definitely you are more alerted, but not that you check it every day, but more alerted to take necessary precautions. And moment some symptoms set in, at least if the symptoms come in, I would say twice in a day, morning and evening. Especially I said the walk test should be done every day within your own home. So that's come when the symptoms come in. Otherwise, you don't have to touch it again and again, right?
So one important point, Prabhuji, you are saying is that everybody's low is different. Everybody's baseline is different. It is not always 98, 97, 99. Somebody could be 95 as well.
Yes.
So he should know what is
our senior citizens. Our senior citizens, they may have a lung which is by now not at its very best. That what you call as senile atrophy of the lungs takes place, right? All organs atrophy. All organs will come down. So they will have a little lower possibilities there. They may have a little lower. So know a baseline. It is not always the same for everybody.
Yes, Prabhuji. This is a very important input. It's not, everybody is not same. Simple it is.
Yeah.
Another question here is the disease airborne and the contact surface? Say I'm staying on a floor and I'm staying on the 5th floor. At the 6th floor, somebody has a disease and he's a coronavirus, COVID patient. Will it affect our family? What is the range of COVID? You know, I mean, how many floors?
No, as you said in the beginning, even if you're locked up and not gone into a house for 15 months, and there are still people, I'm surprised, there are people who are like really, really so, I would say, serious or scared or whatever it is. They are not stepped out of that plank on the door, you know, for the last 15 months. They're not even just stepped out at all. And the threshold. And they still got corona. That is the funniest thing. They still got corona, right? So that's really funny. Now, if somebody has, you know, on the top floor and it is airborne, so if he's going to look down and start coughing in your, you know, towards the lower floors, it comes through the air. And so, but please remember, whether it is in your next door neighbor or your upper neighbor or a lower neighbor, whoever it is, yes, the disease is airborne. Now, what does really airborne really mean? Let's talk about what does airborne really mean. So it is not that the air is fully studded with viruses. Whatever air you are breathing is, you know, full of viruses, and the moment your mask is down and you breathe unfiltered air, viruses just enter into your nose. So it is not, doesn't mean like that. It means that somebody who has been in that vicinity, has sneezed or coughed, was infected, right? And for a particular duration of time, a short duration of time, the mucous particles which embed the virus within will be hanging in the air for a while. And therefore, for some time, they will be, you know, floating in the atmosphere. And if you are the person who sort of passes by that path, right, with your mask lowered, you may risk the fact that you may start inhaling the virus, because still the particles were, as I said, airborne and hanging in the air. But they don't hang in the air all the time. Within a few minutes, because even however weightless they are, they will certainly settle down on a grass, on a leaf, on a, you know, teapot, on your chair, wherever, it'll settle down, right? So it comes down. And if you are going to be touching those things, and again, then touching it to your nose and everything else, then of course you are contacting the virus, right? So just because people around you are having viruses on 5th floor, 4th floor, it's more to do when you go out, as I think when we use the lifts, where somebody has coughed in the lift and you're just the next guy who comes in and the virus is still in the air and he has touched the handles and everything else, the knobs, everything else, and you're touching it. And again, you sort of, you know, we always do this, right? We always have this habit of doing this again and again, touching our nose. You know, our nose is very dear to us somehow, I don't know. And we keep on touching this, touching our mask many times. So after having touched infected surfaces and then touching our nose area, that gives the entry to the virus into our nose. So we should remember that the dwaram, the mahadwaram for the virus is our nose. And therefore, that should be protected. But just because it is airborne, you can still go for a morning walk. People will say, bahar nahi jane ka hai, because, you know, the societies are all locked down and all that. But if people are sensible in your society and if you understand yourself, then even if you go in the morning walk between 6 and 7, where there is, you know, nobody else around, so you are here and the next guy is, you know, walking in front of you, behind you, right? You can still go for a walk as long as you have the mask on. If you are a little concerned, take a steam before you go out of the house, wear your mask, go out after hand wash, come back, have your hand wash again, right? And take a steam again, right? So you can continue with your normal walking patterns. Like most people who are health conscious will go for a walk in the morning, right? You can still go out, and do not be fearful that the airborne virus is going to catch you because you are out of the house. I hope that makes it.
Yes, Prabhuji, that's it. Apart from virus, what is the significance of viral load, Prabhuji? Means, you know, it is one thing to catch few droplets, and it's another thing to be directly in the sneeze of somebody who is already infected.
Yeah. So one sneeze or one good cough or one good sneeze by infected will release you know, almost a billion viruses in the atmosphere. It's a large thing. So these are very tiny, right? They are electron microscopically small, few nanometers in size. So they are going to be released in like a big burst will be there, right? So people who are the healthcare workers, nurses, attendants, doctors, etc., they are at risk for this sort of situation where they are treating patients who are all infected. Everyone in the ward is affected. Everybody in the ICU is affected. Everyone is, and when they start coughing, right, which they will, because they are infected, and one of the symptoms is to cough. So what can they do, right? So when they cough, they will release a lot of things in the air. And so they are people who are going to probably be maximally, inhaling a large viral load within their system. And as I said, if you are in the close vicinity of such a person, the viral load will be large. But otherwise, if you just distance out well, sitting in the room and distance out well, then the viral, doesn't go so too far. There is a limit of how much the virus can go. So, and on an average, you can say 2 meters. On an average, 2 meters, if you say 2 meters is a good distance, right? So if you're 2 meters away from an infected person, then there is very, very, very little chance to get infected from such a person. So just being in the vicinity of infected person, you will get corona. That is not true. That is not true.
Yeah, right. Yes.
It is not something which just happens by seeing him or just being close to him, right? Earlier when the first wave came, somebody had corona. If he was there, they would say, he is coronavirus patient. So they would be like, as if, he's like leprosy patient or somebody, a chooth, untouchable type of fellow, poor fellow. They were treated in a huge amount of stigma in the first wave of not wanting to deal with them, to talk to them, to touch them. So they were treated like really, really, somebody who they were sometimes looked down upon, as people who are unwanted types, but it is not like that. It is not like that. Just keep a safe distance and things.
Yeah. So what they say is 2 meter ki duri and mask hai jaruri. So that's what is still it's there. Prabhuji, another question here is, currently the headlines are about black fungus and white fungus. So does anybody who without having corona can suffer from this black fungus or white fungus disease?
This fungus is a fungal infection in a immunocompromised host. There is no immunocompetency, and there is something called as immunocompromised state. So those are immunocompetent, right? They will not get the virus. They will not get the fungus. So these are unfortunate victims of the fungus because their body has been further, compromised as far as their immune systems with heavy medication, which they received during their stay in the most likely in the ICU. They have been diabetics. Many of the people have been diabetics, so they already were predisposed to fungal infections because, as you know, sugar comes on. The fungus comes on sugar, right? The moment you put sugar outside, any sandesh or any peda outside, the first thing which comes on the peda will be fungus, right? More than the cockroaches and the ants. The first thing, within 2 days, will be a lot of fungus will be there. So those people have been very high diabetics who were not controlled sugar patients before they got the coronavirus. Now, most diabetics in our country and world over are uncontrolled, right? There are very few people who are, I would say probably more than 50% of people in the world who are diabetics are not controlled people, more than 50. It's very significant, right? Which is HbA1c more than 8.9. In our country, HbA1c level average is 8.9. And the average of HbA1c is normal is 7. So there's a really big, deviation from the normal. So that being the average of a diabetic in India, they are probably fungal prone to start with. Number one. Number two, then they get the coronavirus. And for us, please remember, steroids are very important part of our armamentarium, right? When we are going to deal with you, when you come to us with infection and you already have inflammation coming up, we will be using, steroids for you. And there will be a momentary jump in the sugar levels. Right? Of course, each doctor uses steroids, also knows quite too well that he has to control that with added doses of insulin in the body, right? So if that is done adequately well in the phase of admission or in the ICU, then your risk of the fungus is low, is definitely low, right? But if you're getting steroid for a long time, if you're gone home and you still have not been able to control your sugars, you have neglected your diet, you neglected your insulin taking, because you have to take insulin for a while, even after you go home, right? You might have to take your oral anti-diabetic drugs. So please do not neglect. Let all our diabetic patients not neglect their diabetes. Our doctors will be more focused now that the awareness of mucormycosis has become more strong. Our doctors are even more now careful about using steroid, which are more, a lesser dose of steroid than before, because there was probably and some people may have used little higher doses than necessary, because in the zest to save patient's life, not otherwise. We thought we should use a mega dose so that will send them fast.
Yes, right.
We are also, doctors also understand that they need to take it a little less, and sugar is controlled very well. After you go home, please take care of your sugar again, right? If all these factors pre-admission, during admission, and post-admission is taken care of well, your risk of coronavirus is less. Apart from that, one more thing. This is from the medical point of view. Second thing is from the hygiene point of view. After you go to your home, right? Now remember, these fungus are also lying in your mouth and my mouth even right now. Some fungus is there all in everybody's mouth because the mouth is always opening, right? We always talking, eating. So everything which is in the atmosphere is going into our mouth. So there are bacteria in our mouth, there are fungus in our mouth, they are all there. So local oral hygiene will have to be stepped up. So when you come out of the admission situation, when you're coming home, then enhance your oral hygiene. So after every meal, a good gargling, either use chlorhexidine or betadine for gargling, right? These are available. Everyone knows these are common things. These are already aware of these things. So after this thing, take 5 ml of this, gargle, right?
I think Prabhuji's video is. Maybe till then I will just repeat what Prabhuji was saying, that the fungal infection is not only to the COVID patients. Fungus is all around, and to the degree fungus is proportional to the sugar levels. Whenever a patient is admitted to the hospital, what happens is he's in a critical condition. Therefore, we have to give the steroids, and whenever we give steroids, doctors give steroid. The steroids automatically lead to rise in the sugar level, which are generally controlled by the added dose of insulin. So there are two things. The one thing is about proper medication, and the second thing to avoid fungus is with the help of proper hygiene. So proper hygiene and proper medication both will take care that we are away from this black fungus or white fungus. So we wait for Prabhuji to join. I'm just going to call him.
Am I okay now?
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji. Yes, okay. We just revised what we heard from you. One question is there which talks about, I mean, it's a little dharma sankat wala question. Previously, what we have seen, Prabhuji, because even I come from a family where somebody is practicing Ayurveda in my family. So they say that people go to Ayurveda when everything is failed, and always Ayurvedic doctors, they have this idea that, we are the last choice and only critical patient come to us. And now the same thing is reversed with allopathy. What is happening is people are trying everything else. People are trying, all types of kada, with all respects to everything that I'm speaking is out of respect only, because otherwise, I may not get my, okay. So what I want to say is, people treat allopathy as the very last, the resort. And then what happens is that by then the disease is aggravated. At the same time, there are people who completely disregard allopathy and say that we will go only Ayurvedic. So without clashing between the pathies, how we resolve this issue?
Okay, that's a good. That's a good question. I think we want to be a little more wise on this, and wisdom is, like Srila Prabhupada said, do the needful. Correct. So I think that needful wisdom has to dawn upon all of us. It is no point at this point of time being fanatical or obsessed with a particular pathy. This is no time for that, right? We are in such a grave situation in this world, right? We are in a semi-emergency situation. There is a global affection of this disease all over the planet. So there is no time for us to be narrow-minded with some bigoted ideas that this is good and this is bad. Well, don't we all know that everything has a place in this world? Right? When you have a surgery, when you have a broken limb, you need a plaster and you need sutures to stop your bleeding.
can Ayurveda herbs help at that time to stop bleeding? Answer is no. If you have a broken skull, then you need a CT scan and you need a surgeon to come and remove the clot there, right? So I think we all understand by now. We are not so narrow-minded to think that everything in allopathy is bad. I think anybody who says that, you know, should be I don't know what they should do to him, but they should definitely not hear him, because there is no room for fanaticism at all, right? There is fanaticism, and there is fanatical religious followers, there are fanatical medical followers, there are fanatical political followers, there are fanatics in every field, right? And we don't want to be classed as being fanatical as far as in the medical field, right? So how can we say that Krishna has given us so many things in the world which all can be used? And when Pankaj Jhangri Prabhu was sick, well, he was put on oxygen. You will say, I don't want oxygen. He was put on steroid. You say, I don't want to put steroid. He's a Mahabhagavat here. Bhakti Charu Maharaj is a Mahabhagavat, Vaishnava. But even as in the hospital, he submitted himself to what was necessary. Of course, we lost him. That's unfortunate. But they all accepted what was necessary, right? Maybe there was some resistance in the beginning, but they all understood that, yes, this is necessary. So most of us need to understand that there is no room for that. Ayurvedic principles are important, right? When I spoke about, for example, the Dincharya, when I spoke about the, you know, I'm going to lifestyle, same thing, you know, the same word. You people will say Dincharya, Ayurvedic, your wife will say Dincharya, and I'm saying lifestyle, right? But you cannot deviate from the truth. Whatever the terminology may be, the truth is the truth, right? So Ayurvedic and allopathy there are several meeting points where so much of these pathies come together and understand things in the right way, right? So accepting the fact that Ayurveda, allopathy have their own uniqueness, definitely, this is a time for integration. We want to integrate the best of what the world has got and offer it.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you are muted. Yeah, yes.
Therefore, at Bhakti Vedanta, for example, we are, for example, I think some of you have heard the word Ayurkoro kit. I think you heard that name. Some of you have probably even taken it. All our brahmachari friends from Pune, all our brahmachari friends from Gopinath Temple, and many devotees worldwide have used this.
Yeah, yes, this is a very nice point, Prabhuji. This reminds one very beautiful pastime of Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada was in, this is in late 70s, when Srila Prabhupada was sick. And they, here incidentally, Bhakti Charu Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, they were taking care of Prabhupada. And they asked Prabhupada, so Prabhupada, should we call doctor? And Prabhupada said, yes. And then they asked Prabhupada, which doctor? Ayurvedic, allopathic, homeopathic. And then Prabhupada gave a very candid reply. Prabhupada said, call someone, you should have some husband. So Prabhuji, you have just made it very nice that, such a Mahabhagavat devotees, when they are accepting, we should just do the needful and don't just get stuck up, and we should not be the, the fanatical followers of anything. We should not be fanatic, just avoid being fanatics.
Yeah, so to just finish my answer with a little more specificity, the Ayurvedic principles of health care, there is Kada or lifestyle or the sleep part we spoke about, that is relevant till you get symptomatic on the primitive side. Once you get symptomatic, once you get fever 102, you will have to take a paracetamol to bring down the fever. Once you get, throat infected, you will have to use betadine gargles, right? Nothing wrong with that, right? And once you get even higher symptoms, you will have to change the gear from pure Ayurvedic, something more integrated, right? So be open for steroids, be open for antiviral drugs, be open for, medications which are necessary, right? Because we are in an emergency situation, right? We cannot close down our minds. But at Bhaktivedanta, where we are a little more open-minded people, as I said before. So, if you are a person who likes Ayurveda, then if you get sick, then you are welcome to Bhaktivedanta. We will give you a fair share of Ayurvedic things. There are patients I have in the ICU right now who are very, very critical, who are very high oxygen. They are getting 30, 40, 50 liters of oxygen within our ICU, right? Our Sridhar Prabhu is there, right? So we are combining the merits of different pathies, and we have learned to coexist in such a way that bring out the best of what we have to somehow save patients' lives.
Yes, Prabhuji. So just like we say, Sarve Midhi Nishedasur Etayoreva Kinkara, Satatam
Right.
Swartavya Vishnu. So we are just do the needful and just go ahead in the life.
Correct.
Prabhuji, actually we thought of having the rapid fire question at the end, but now we are having so many questions that, of course, it's not going to be rapid fire, but we need to ramp up a little bit because we have just received too many questions. So I'm going to ask you some questions on vaccine now. So the first question is, are animals harmed in making vaccine? Are there any animal derivatives in the vaccine?
These viruses are cultured. They are cultured. It's called as culture. So the culture, the basic material on which the cells are cultured, they are of animal origin. Yes, that's true. So what I would say is that there is an element, we cannot deny the fact that there is an element of the use of animals for nurturing these vaccines when they come to us. They're not growing on trees, they're not going on plants, they are not coming, of that source. However, I would probably want to think like this also, that it is in Kali Yuga, it is very difficult, really, honestly speaking, to keep so rigid in our principles of ahimsa to the fullest extent. We cannot just do that. Like, we were told by Prabhupada in his books that, even if you put a vessel from here to there, under the vessel on the surface of a kitchen floor, there are bacteria, people who have killed. If you're walking on this, and we have to walk, right? Now, when we're walking, are we not killing so many ants, bacteria, whatever else under our feet, right? So we are breathing, and we're breathing a lot of bacteria, and they're getting killed in our body. So it is impossible to live a life. Yeah, it's impossible to live a life where there is ahimsa free, ahimsa free. Well, you can talk of milk. There are no protected cows. There are some areas where we would definitely would not like to take the the milk of a cow which is going to be harmed later on when she stops lactation. However, there are some areas where we would probably be able to avoid this situation. So what we call as a higher principle and lower principle, Jiva Jiva Jivasa Jivanam is a universal law which Bhagavatam has taught us. So we cannot totally absolve ourselves, but we are hoping that when we're using these things for us as Vaishnavas, as devotees, that because we're using it, as I said in the beginning, and Prabhupada also mentions that we are doing it for maintaining this body, not as a sense gratification of our consciousness, but for serving Krishna. Hopefully, when we apply our tilak every day in 12 places of our body, we are rededicating ourselves every day to Krishna's holy service, that we maintain his body as a temple, right, for his seva. So in doing that, we may sometimes have to make some minor compromises. And Krishna, being the all good God, which we know, very merciful God, he will not hold it against us, because we are not voluntarily going out and killing animals like that, right? We are not doing that ourselves. So it is a little sensitive to think like this, but I would say do not take the vaccine based on this principle. The vaccine is essential, right? Because what
Yes.
give us, and I would say it's a gift of God, it's a gift of Krishna. I would not see it otherwise, right? In the midst of all this deathly situation, if the Lord has empowered some scientists, some biologists, some good companies to come up with this, whatever may be the commercial implications, that apart, but this has come as a measure of safety for all of us. For example, all doctors are taking it. So this second wave, for example, we didn't have so many doctors losing their lives, because those who were vaccinated in the first wave, and there is merit. So nobody can deny that vaccine is working, and it is helping people. So it is, I would say, it is coming along to us as a Lord's protection, and we should definitely.
Incidentally, there is one very nice video clip which is circulating amongst the devotees where Prabhupada is very strongly propagating vaccine,
Is
and
it?
one should get vaccinated.
Okay.
So, I mean, that won't be a question. But at the same time, sometimes, there is another question here is, how long should one wait for the first dose of vaccine after getting COVID?
Okay, yeah. So once you get a COVID, you are going to some sort of a upheaval in your body where there is inflammatory responses, the immune system has been activated, there's some amount of damage has taken place. So all this has to die down and come down to baseline again, right? It's like there has been some bombs being just fall into your body, and now again the repairing work has to take place. So the repairing work and all that stuff to get back to life takes about 2 months at least. So at Bhaktivedanta, our common protocol is to advise people that after they have been discharged from the hospital, they would take the vaccine after a period of at least 2 months.
Achha, 2 months. So another related question is, if somebody has taken the first dose of vaccine and then he gets COVID and then second dose, so the answer is the same. There should be 2
Yes.
months of phase, 2 months of
Correct.
period.
Correct. There's no hurry. There's no hurry. Because if you had a vaccine, you have some immunity developed, then you had an infection. So the body is now again developed some natural antibodies. So there is no big rush to take the second dose. Be sure that your body is trying to cope up with the situation, and in due course of time, when you take the second dose, your body will be even more immunized by that time.
Yes, Prabhuji. So another question here, somebody is asking, this is, where will be the link of this recording available? So the answer was given here that the link will be circulated amongst all the devotees by tomorrow evening. So we are shortly recording this very important session, and the link will be available. Another question is here that somebody is already under some medication. Should they consult doctor before getting vaccinated, or one should, blindly go for vaccination? I mean,
Those
are there
who
any
are
indications?
correct. Now that's important. Those who are on cardiac medications, heavy cardiac medications, and those who are dialysis patients, those who are heavy diabetics, those who are cancer patients, those who are on chemotherapy patients, right? They need to actually go and see their doctor. Most of the time, a doctor would probably give them a green signal. But if somebody is under chemotherapy, he may want to stay back. Somebody is on immunomodulating drugs. There are many diseases, chronic diseases, what they call as collagen muscular diseases, etc., which are treated by rheumatologists, for example, where they are on immunomodifying drugs, right? Where their immune system has to be dealt with in some way to deal with the disease which they are going through. It's a chronic diseases. So your parent doctor may have an opinion on the vaccine for you, right? So go to your parent doctor, go to your original consultant, and take a consultation from them. Our diabetic patients, please note, try to see that your diabetes is fairly controlled, because if you are heavily uncontrolled diabetes and take a vaccine, you may feel extremely weak. You may really feel like very low energy. So see that your sugar is reasonably controlled. If you are on what you call as not aspirin, there are many people who are taking aspirin. So if you're on aspirin, don't worry. Like Ecosprin, aspirin, I think people know this drug. This is considered as antiplatelet drug. There is no contraindication for antiplatelet drugs like aspirin or clopidogrel. But if you are on warfarin, which is called as anticoagulant, they are called so there's a difference between aspirin and anticoagulant. If you're on anticoagulant drugs, then they will not be told not to take a vaccine, but it is just that when they're getting poked in their deltoid region, in their shoulder region, then because the blood is a little thinner than normal, they may have a small hematoma, a small blood clot over here, right? So they need to be prepared for that. But it is not that because they are on anticoagulants, they'll be told not to take, but there's a little more careful. Now on the vaccine part, the scare is about the side effects. So I think I'll take the same thing in continuity. If you're getting vaccinated, there are a few things you need to bear in mind in order to minimize the much advertised side effects of this vaccine, which are sometimes probably been exaggerated. By and large, for example, Bhaktivedanta, we had entire staff being vaccinated, all doctors, all managers, everybody. But we didn't see any critical situation here. But yes, there are people who have been affected in a small way, and sometimes that is highlighted. But even then, if it is highlighted, we should know what to do and what not to do. So first of all, the day you go to take your vaccine, and take a decent breakfast, but take 2 glasses of water. You go to a vaccination center, sit there for half an hour to see that you are doing well. When you come back home, again take 2 glasses of water. For the next 5 to 7 days, be conscious about the amount of hydration, right? Most people who had vaccines, and the vaccine is supposed to be, as we said, is immunogenic, and it may, along with immunogenicity, if your body is what we call as hyperimmunogenic state, or a hyperimmune response is given by the body, you may go into some sort of an inflammatory response to the vaccine also. It leads to microclotting. So some people have had clots in their body, in the brain, in the heart, etc. But if you keep the viscosity of the blood low by hydration, that is a good way of preventing, because most of us, as you understand, we are mostly dehydrated. How many of us can really vouch and say that I take a good amount of water I need for myself? Most of it are active with our activities, on the laptop, home, this, that, running around here and there, so many things. And the bottle may be lying in front of us, but we may forget to take a glass of water. So we all need to take anything more than 2 to 2.5 liters per day. Now, a little more summer is there, a little more. But during vaccine, more water, more rest, totally avoid outside food. We already said a few things about that before, but during this time, no outside food, extra rest. All our ladies, matas, do not push yourself for doing all the domestic work. Let be a little more, okay, some things are left undone, relax. Some things can be done for the future. Because if you strain yourself after a vaccine, you may get a little more exhausted than necessary, right? So if the body is feeling tired after a vaccine, surrender to the body and give the body the rest. Just lie down, okay, 2 hours of rest, don't do anything else, right? So extra rest, low work output, daily level, more water, etc. So if it does do these things, you will probably have a little less of the side effects which are there.
Yes, Prabhuji. There are certain questions like, whether one is having a thyroid problem, should they take vaccine? What we would say is that if you have a question, better consult a doctor. And some of the major diseases that pointed out by Prabhuji, you have to surely consult. Otherwise, vaccination is safe for everyone. One concern about vaccination is, the distance or the interval between the 2 doses. Initially, they said that it's 4 weeks, then 8 weeks, then 12, and then 16. So, how to...
Yeah, I think, honestly, we doctors are also going by the same guidelines which you are going by. we don't make our own guidelines for ourselves, but we are also guided by people who are sitting there, who are hopefully understanding things better than you and me and telling us what to do. So we are all going by those guidelines. Like I took the vaccine when I took second vaccine at a 1 month interval, and now the same vaccine is going to be taken at 2 months interval, right? So I think whatever is being told, because when you get a vaccine, you will also get an intimation in your mobile that your next dose will be at so and so time. So after 84 days, they will say, something they will say like that, right? So let's keep our minds open, and whatever guidelines are being promoted by the government and basically the body which does this is ICMR, Indian Center for Medical Research. So ICMR knows all this stuff. There are a lot of scientists sitting there, very, very brilliant scientists sitting there. They are not just anybody sitting there. They really know what they're doing. But and the fact of what, as you said, Prabhu, in the beginning, that as data emerges, because see, they're trying to understand, this vaccine is prepared in such a way now that we are trying to understand the immunogenic responses of this vaccine, right? So what level of cell immunity is created, what level of antibodies are being created, what level of protection is being given out, people are getting infected with the vaccine. So all these studies are being done. So based on this, rising knowledge, they're obviously going to modify the guidelines, and that's to our advantage, right? So there's not creating confusion, but in fact creating more clarity that time period with the increasing is to get the best impact of the booster dose, right? The second dose is the first dose. Both second dose and first dose are the same amount of, same number of ml is injected, but second is a booster dose. So now they're judging after the first, where do you rise, right? And it should not fall, but before it starts falling, you give the second one so that you actually have a great response which lasts for longer time. So please don't get confused, but just wait for guidelines to come in your way and follow that.
Prabhuji, the related question here is how long the vaccine when one is taking both the doses will keep one safe from the virus? How long?
This question is not yet fully answered, honestly, right? Because there is, as I said, we say there are no long-term studies. We have short-term studies, right? Long-term means if they have to judge the antibody level. Now their antibodies are being judged, right? I think you know that post-vaccination antibodies are being studied now. So the level which they are there in the body, whether it's a plateau for how long, and when does it start dipping takes place, we really don't know. So for sure, but at least 6 months for sure. 6 months is a good time to think about. The virus may be mutating in such a way, of course it is mutating, but what I'm saying is it is mutating in such a way that the vaccines may not be fully covering all the mutants which are there. So we may be able to prepare like the flu shot, what they call, we use for our flu patients, what we call influenza vaccines, which are given to our patients, those who are pneumonia patients, asthma patients, cancer patients. We give them every year in a particular time of the year, we give it to them because we know that the influenza virus has mutated. Virus is notorious for mutating. Therefore, I would say all the more to again, go back to our basics of the immune system. We are not saying that the immune, whether it is Covaxin or Covishield, Pfizer, Bharat Biotech, or the much awaited Sputnik, which is coming in now, right? Whatever the vaccine may be, we are not absolved of our responsibility to do what we are supposed to do. The mask, the hand washing, the distancing, and of course, as I said before, a healthy lifestyle, right? Please do not think that the virus, the vaccine makes you, like, okay, now I'm done. Now I can just do whatever I want. You need to still protect yourself because a very important reason is that if you are vaccinated, you may not really get badly infected, but if you become careless, right, and you keep your mask down and you're walking and talking and everything in the public, you are releasing virons in the atmosphere, which are not affecting you, but affecting people around you, right? So, let's not forget that the vaccine is for you, but, the mask is also meant for you and for others as well, right?
Yeah, yes.
So otherwise we may end up, the vaccinated people may be infecting those who are not vaccinated and creating some trouble.
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji, very well said. Another related question is how the pregnant ladies and the breastfeeding mother should take care in the pandemic. Can they be vaccinated or they cannot be?
Our infectious disease specialists tell us that there is no clear-cut contraindication to not take the vaccine in pregnancy, right? They are not saying you don't take it. So somebody wants to take it, they can still take it. There's not a problem. It is not that is going to affect the baby in the womb in a particular way. So if they're really concerned, they can take it. I would say if for a devotees at least, that the breastfeeding mothers, for example, the Ayurveda is there. Ayurveda is there, that they could take the Ayurveda which is there. The pregnant ladies, when they get infected, well, we have some people who are there. They can do the Ayurvedic gargles of the Ayurveda, for example, which is good. They can take the steam, they can take the gargles, right? And I believe here, Ayurveda may have to play a little more extra role. Maybe they have some of these medicines which are there, they can use. We have some doctors in Bhaktivedanta using these medications during pregnancy because we won't be able to use steroids and we won't be able to use ivermectin at that time. We won't be able to use hydroxychloroquine and all these drugs. So we may want to probably use, at least for the low symptom types, just a little bit of fever, this and that. And once if they get badly infected, of course, we may have to go for a higher attack. But lower symptoms, probably there's a room for stepping up our Ayurvedic defense and taking help from these people.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, here is a question from the COVID patient. He's saying that a month has passed since the COVID recovery, but still there is a tiredness, body ache, still present. What to do?
The vitality goes low. There is the amount of energy production, what you call ATP, becomes low. Your muscle mass is probably also being lost to some extent. Your lungs have been not able to give all the oxygen their body needs to gather and give it out to the organs. There has been some amount of malnutrition during the infection, which you have not had the best of foods during that time. So these are some reasons I'm enumerating, which may lead to a prolonged weakness. So those who have been affected by the lungs, we advise them to go for lung rehabilitation. We have lung physiotherapists in our hospital, and in most places, doctors will recommend after the COVID thing is over, go for lung physiotherapy. Like after paralysis, you go for body physiotherapy, limb physiotherapy. So when they go for lung physiotherapy, then the lung gets activated, and some of the damage which is there, the healthy part starts working better, right? The lung starts expanding, vital capacity increases. So go for lung rehabilitation. Now it's time again to think of Chyawanprash and things like that. This will be very, very useful. Go for Yatha Shakti, again, exercises. You can't do much, but what a little you can do. Focus on nutrition a lot. Focus a lot on nutrition, because nutrition is a very role. Chyawanprash, nutrition, lung physiotherapy. Take a healthy dose of the supplements we talk about. There are supplements which are now being used for actually boosting a metabolism. With these things being done properly, you will definitely recover. That's for sure. Just do these things and be a little more patient, and you will definitely recover.
Yes, Prabhu. There is a question about the third wave, and it is, the health of the kids, the small children is at stake. So what care should be taken to take care, during this third wave, and especially for the kids? Can we give them multivitamin? And, of course, you have elaborately guided those Panchasutri we have for the better immune, but what additionally you say for taking care of children in this?
See, our kids need to get into a culture of good health. I would say that, our kids, we train them in Krishna consciousness to read slokas and do perform aartis, and they get a culture of devotion. And side by side, as we are doing that, we should also be giving them a culture of good health. And when these two things done nicely, then overall, we know that their psychologically, physical, and spiritual health will. So this is a time to really inculcate healthy sanskaras in our children. Therefore, I would say make it more fun-based. I was suggesting that if you and your kids are there and said, okay, time for pranayam. Okay, now you just breathe in. So it's something like a bhastrika, something like exercise. Okay, now we're going to skip. So mommy, how much can you skip? Mommy can skip only 50. Papa can skip 100. But the child can skip 200 now. Okay. So yesterday I did 200. Today I'm going to do 250. Right. So you put yourself in a situation where you do exercises at home. Right. So create a culture of health in the family. Very, very important. And children like to eat chips and all. I think even adults succumb to these temptations, but children even far more. Said, देखो ना साहब, हमारा बच्चा कुछ खाता ही नहीं है. The common complaint, not to us, but to our pediatrician doctor, will say he doesn't eat anything. He will only eat those chips and wafers and noodles. He will not eat any sabji. So it's a really good time to inculcate good food habits in our children, to really keep away from the junk. Give them exercises. Again, get them hydrated properly. Give them lifestyle, what is necessary. Yes, you can give vitamins to our children, but in a syrup form. There are good brands available in the market from Pfizer, Abbott, so many companies will come, right? Give them syrups to do. Give them fruits. Give them seasonal fruits. Fruits are very good. Wash them properly, but give them good amount of fruits to eat. Biscuits and all those things, which I said, the bread and the biscuits, which are definitely not useful. Also, I would say that children may probably be a little more, over on the mask and all those sort of things. But if somebody in the house is infected, all the more, somebody is infected, then children will have to be educated as to how, because, they may want to go to the mother is in a separate room. She's, sort of home quarantined herself, into isolation. Children may feel a little like that. But, make our children understand that, there is a time when we, don't want to go close to the mother right now. So, some distancing factor, what we talked about, which will be good to make them understand. They are not being sent out of the house now. I think most of the children are being kept right in the house. But in the house, make them physically more active, because now everything is on the net, right? All their studies on the net, tutorials and classes. So our children are becoming obese even more, right? They are gaining a lot of weight. May not be a very good healthy sign. Obesity is something which is going to avoid. So again, keep them some way physically activated. I would say that would definitely boost up their overall immune performance. Children, of course, have far more better immunity than most of us elders. So they are not so much of a risk, though some cases of children are now being detected. A third wave could be something affecting our children because adults may be vaccinated by that time. Children may, and there is no vaccine for children as of now, right? So that's something which is being prepared. But yes, this is a time to really get our children more into a health consciousness. And that will be more very, very preventive. You can give them vitamin C, as we said, that is also is definitely good. Chyawanprash is something which children can still take. Chyawanprash is a tasty substance, right? Baidyanath and all these make, I think, decent Chyawanprash which even children can like. So that can be taken by our children. So there are some good options available by which they can be taken care of.
Yes, Prabhuji, almost we are addressing all the questions. So there are few questions, rapid fire, you can just give in 3 words or, one-liner answers. What are your 3 tips for immunity?
Tips for immunity are regulation, peace, and balanced lifestyle.
Thank you, Prabhuji. 3 tips for overall health.
Overall health. Overall health is Yuktahara Viharasya.
Wow, Yuktahara Viharasya.
That is, you need to repeat Krishna's words, right?
Yeah, right, correct.
Bhodhi Dukha will take place.
Yes. In this period, what we should be afraid of?
Be afraid of, the bad propaganda which WhatsApp University is spreading, and get enlightened by genuine knowledge from people who know things. And don't be afraid of, don't watch that. I would say, don't look into the news. I didn't say that. I think I'm going to say that now, right? The news, is the biggest scare is coming from this news, right? So, we don't need to see that anymore. I think it's happening all over the place. Why are we even looking at that, right? And we know it's there in so much in Karnataka, so much in Andhra, so much in Bengal, so much in, in UK. Well, how does it really matter? Right? Repeated it 2,000 times or 5,000 times. How does it really matter? Doesn't really matter, right? So we understood the principle that is there, but now I would say be scared. The best thing to avoid fear is stop watching this news and stop reading these WhatsApp messages now. By now, everyone has sufficient knowledge. Put that knowledge to practice. We don't need to know anything. Honestly, I think there's nothing more to be known.
Right.
What needs to be known has been told to us in so many forums, right?
Yes.
Or that forum. We know enough. Now practice that with a peaceful, happy mind, right? Let's develop our strong faith in Krishna's protection. And his shelter is always there for his devotees if we do the right thing, right? So with that, armed with that faith and armed with the proper practices which we need to do, I think we are quite in a good state. We are much better than anybody else. So don't succumb and don't get victimized by this negativity around. This is not a time for negativity. This is a time for actually, enhanced Krishna consciousness, which brings a lot of positivity into ourselves.
Prabhuji, how to get immunity of the mind, prasanna manaso? The way you are, in spite of having very hectic schedules, and we are, you are now giving your Sunday also, which is the only off day. How to have immunity of the mind?
Krishna Kirtan, Krishna and Krishna Katha will make us all happy.
Yeah. Another question is from the kids, Prabhuji. When we will get to play?
We can play in the house.
Yes.
The parents, the parents, like we teach them, we teach them deity worship, right? Now came to your home. Remember, Prabhu, Mukund Prabhu, that your daughter, I cannot forget that scene. She was worshipping the deity of Panduranga with so much of devotion. I cannot forget that image. Such a small girl. She, I think, was 6 or 7 years old. She must be now grown up, obviously. So she was doing that. And you had trained her to do, and she was loving it, right? So why can't they can also learn to play in the house, right? There are so many things you can do in the house. Just you have to be a little more innovative, how to make them play. So there is a lot of play in the house possible, right? There are, I think, some videos I had seen also of people jumping and keeping balls and keeping stakes and jumping from this to that and all those sort of things. Just have to be a little more innovative and get our children, and the parents can spend more time in playing. Otherwise, they would just say, go and play. But now, so now they can all play together. So the family chants together, dines together, everything else, and also plays together. So let's, we should make it fun. I think we should make our children feel they are not missing out because Papa and Mummy both are now playing with them, right?
Yeah, yes, very good, Prabhuji. They got 2 more friends in the house now. Papa and Mummy, they are there. Yes, very nice. And this is the last question to Mataji, if she's around.
See, Mataji?
Yes.
She's busy with something else.
Okay, so okay, we'll ask it to you. How you take care of yourself? This is the last one, because you are the doctor, the medical fraternity is most exposed. So how they should take care, and the family members of them, how they should take care of the overall health.
Yeah, honestly, I've been trying to follow whatever I have spoken today is not theoretical. Something which I definitely want to follow in my life also, and I've been doing that not just during COVID times, but even before that. The principles I mentioned before is something which I have embraced in my life to whatever extent possible, and that is what is really sort of paying off, and therefore I've been protected, even though I'm not necessarily very, very young anymore, but at the same time, still the body is able to cope up with whatever is happening. So we've been trying to keep regulation. We used to sleep a little late earlier. We were living out of regulation. But the moment Vishaka Priya and myself, we decided, okay, we need to again reframe. So trying to sleep a little early and get a good night rest has helped, because you get a morning time for a good chanting, right? So morning time when you good chanting is done, then that actually makes us so much more stress-free. Because not all of us have experience of that. You chant your good rounds in the morning, your heart is pacified, your daily quota of sadhana, more or less, your vows have been taken care of, right? Your mind is more peaceful, and mind can actually be more strengthened to really face the rigors of the day, which is obviously going to bring, right? Because you are fortified with the power of the holy name, and that is really fortification of the consciousness and the mind. And we are less cranky, we are less snappy, we are less snappy about things. We are a little more peaceful. We can even if things don't happen exactly the way we are wanting, but we can still sort of accommodate things. So all these benefits, which we all know only too well, will come to us if we regulate our sadhana in the morning. So by doing these things, I'm sure we can still, as you said, remain prasanna in the midst of all this that is happening around. There is no need to be having a sad face, the whole world has broken down now. Everything is over. Sab lut gaya. It's not like that. There is, I was thinking, we had gone to when I went to the US last time. I saw this. I thought I want to share this. So when we were on the East Coast, and in the East Coast, in New York, New Jersey, and those areas, right? We had gone in the month of March, and there was all the trees were barren. There was no leaf on a single tree, and you have thousands of trees. As we were driving down the roadways, open roadways, thousands of trees all looking like wilted away, right? And then we flew to the west, and we were in Seattle. And as we were driving from the airport to our fellow devotees' home, there was so much of fresh green colored trees which blossoming and just bursting out green color was there, right? The same country, and two sides we saw different things. So what I thought thereafter, that set me a little thinking philosophically, that those trees are not dead trees in the East. They just lost their leaves, just waiting for a good climate to come back. The roots are still in place. They're still collecting from the roots, and the branches are still there. The trunk is there. They're all gathering all the nutrition still. And just they're waiting for the right atmosphere to come around. And when the atmosphere is good, as is there in the West now, then again, life will burst out of these trees, and bright colors, flowers, fruits will come out, right? And that's what we are going through right now, right? we keep our consciousness fixed in the goal of our life. We do what is necessary, our family duties, professional duties, Krishna conscious duties, the duties which we all prominently have. We keep on doing that properly, right? And things are not being the best environment now. But as they say, even this is going to pass away. This is not an eternal, eternal lifestyle living with COVID. It's not like that. Second wave, third, whatever it is, it will pass away. And then again, we can and we should. It happens in nature all the time. Things fall and they look very barren. They look very pessimistic. They look very bad. But again, lives come back, right? So I'm sure there's going to be great time in the future for all of us. Things will be better off. And hopefully we have learned all our good lessons during this time regarding health, regarding life, right? And in the end, I would like to say, Mukundan Prabhu, that we are most happy at Bhaktivedanta to be of any aid to all of you, dear devotees of Pune, and all our dear Vaishnava families, our God families, our ISKCON family people. We are absolutely here available at Bhaktivedanta. Necessary is there. We have some friends who can help you with admissions or whatever is necessary. So please do not feel any undue anxiety. If you feel that you would like to come to Bhaktivedanta take treatment, right, then you are certainly welcome here to take treatment as well. We want to reassure you that we will go out of our way to give any help that is necessary, right? So with
Thank
that,
you, Prabhuji. This is a perfect way to come to the conclusion of the session, that we should have a nice sadhana, protect ourselves within this time, and have the hope that in the due course of time, everything is going to be flourishing. Sincerely thank His Grace Dwarkadish Prabhu for his very valuable guidance. For last 1.5 years, the entire medical fraternity is extending themselves far beyond their limits. Sunday is the only day for some relaxation and recovery, and here we have His Grace Dwarkadish Prabhu extending himself even on Sunday. Very grateful to you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Now I just hand over to Bhakti. You can take it over.
So Prabhuji, the other day, we were at the store and I saw a couple of ladies, who were talking, saying कि YouTube पे नया वीडियो आया है कि काले फंगस को कैसे रोके और इसे कैसे फैलने से रोका जा सकता है. And I think people are in too much of hurry of circulating that videos on WhatsApp. They are in this thing कि लोगों तक पहुंचना चाहिए, but we don't know कि what is the right source of the information. So that is where knowledge versus right knowledge comes in picture. Understanding knowledge is one thing, but getting to the right knowledge at certain time is one thing. And right here you have come and you have guided us and showed us a light upon this topic, which was so relevant at this particular time. And as you rightly said that, our devotees' safety and security matters the most to us. So thank you so much for removing your valuable time and giving your association to all of us. At Annamrit Pune, I thank you for giving us the platform for organizing this session. We could be help to all of the devotees around. I also thank His Grace Mukundanand Prabhu, His Grace Achyut Keshav Prabhu for coordinating and organizing this stuff. And I most warmly thank the ISKCON and VCC Pune management team who have been our back support throughout the sessions. Thank you so much. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. Thank you. Hari Bol.
There is a question about how we are going to circulate the link of this recording. So,
Prabhuji, whatever groups we have for the congregation devotees, the link would be given there by tomorrow evening. So then devotees can listen to it once again as and when required.
yeah, and hopefully thanks WhatsApp, the link will reach and we can make it viral. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hari Bol. Also, we thank all the devotees for being present in large numbers. Thank you so much.